Hi everyone, I'm Helen. Welcome to class. Today's practice is a hip mobility move and stretch class. This is not a yoga class, but it does have yoga-inspired moves with some really fun variations. We will be bearing weight on the knees and on the wrists, and props you will need are a couple of blocks. When you've gathered those, I will see you on the mat. We'll start today in a wide-legged child's pose, bringing the knees as wide as the mat, big toes touching, seat to heels, arms stretched out in front and your third eye in contact with the earth. Allow the belly to drape between the thighs and maybe face the palms up towards the sky as a symbol of acceptance. Notice how you're breathing. Notice the sensation in the hips. When we are in a wide-legged child's pose, it is a slight external rotation of the hip. So just starting to warm up this big, juicy joint for all the moves we have ahead of us today. Breathe in here, surrendering. And then when you're ready, come up to hands and knees and bring the knees directly under the hips. Sit the seat back to the heels. And on an inhale, come up to tabletop into a cow pose, lifting the head and allowing the chest to come through the gates of the arms. Then exhale, round the spine, cat, seat back to heels. Again, inhale up to cow. And then exhale, round the spine, seat back to heels. Inhale up again to cow. And exhale, seat to heels, articulating the spine in time with your breath. Inhale up to cow. And then exhale, seat to heels. This time, inhale up to cow, and we'll roll through cow and come into a high cobra. Then bring the forehead to the earth. Inhale up, exhale, round back, seat to heels. Again, inhale up through cow, coming through cobra, flat to the earth, and then inhale, lift through cobra, round in the spine, seat back to the heels. Inhale up through cow, reverse cobra, forehead to the earth, and back up through cobra, cat, seat to heels. Again, cow through reverse cobra, forehead to the earth, lift back up through cobra, seat to the heels. Again, inhale up, body comes down flat to the earth, and when you get there, bend the knees and lift the feet up towards the glutes, release them back down, seat back to heels. Again, forward, bringing the body all the way down, bend the knees, and this time lift the legs off the floor, and then release back down, seat back to heels. Again, inhaling forward, bending the knees, lifting the legs, maybe the upper body too, release down, seat back to heels. So keep moving in this pattern. This is working through an extension of the hip and a flexion of the hip. Your legs might not lift that far off the earth, and that's okay. Just go with it and notice the sensation in the body. Keep breathing, and the seat comes back to the heels. One more time, coming through, bending the knees, lifting the legs up as high as you can, and then seat back to the heels and come up to tabletop. Take the right foot and step it outside the right side of the mat, coming onto the ball of the foot. Tuck the left toes, then bring the seat back to the heel so you're sitting deep into that right hip, and come back up. Again, sit back towards the left heel. You might need to readjust that right foot a little. Come back up, sit back, come back up. Again, sit back towards that left heel, come back up, And sit back towards that left heel, and this time we'll stay here, stretching out that right glute and the right hip. Palms are flat to the earth, spine is long. And come back up and release the right knee back to the earth. Side B. Left toes outside the left side of the mat. Right toes are tucked, and sit the hips back towards that right heel. And come back up. Sit back into the hip. Come back up. Sit back to the hip. Come back up. Again, back to the hip. And come back up. One more, sit back towards that right heel. And come back up and return to tabletop. Ground into the left hand, inhale the right arm up to the sky, and exhale, come for a floating thread the needle, and lift back up. So 5 of these, that was 1, 2, inhaling the arm back up to the sky, and exhaling as you curl under, trying to keep the hips neutral. And then on the 5th one, we'll bring the shoulder down to the earth, maybe tenting the left fingers, feeling the twist in the spine. You can ground into the right knee and maybe extend the left leg behind you and lift it off the earth. You do not have to do this. If you do this, really engage the core to keep you balanced, otherwise you will topple over. Breathe in deep, whatever version you're in. If you've got the leg extended, release it back down. Come out the way you went in and return to tabletop. Side B. Left arm lifts to the sky, and we'll do 5 of these floating thread the needles. Curling under as you exhale and inhaling as you open to the side. Breathe in deep, feeling the twist in the spine. And then on the 5th one, the shoulder comes down, maybe tent the right fingers, maybe extend the right leg behind and lift it high behind you, keeping the legs straight, engage in that core. Breathe in deep. And if you have the leg extended, release it back down, come out the way you went in, palm comes down, return to tabletop. Extend the right leg straight behind you, then sweep it round straight to the right side of the mat, touching the toe, inhale back, and touching the left side of the mat. So these are rainbows, trying to keep the legs straight, trying to keep the hips neutral, engage in the core so the back doesn't collapse, swinging to the right side and then over to the left. You don't have to bring your foot as far forward as mine, or maybe it comes even further than mine. And then return to table, left side, extend the left leg. Rainbows on this side, touching the outside of the mat, and sweeping round to the right side, inhaling forward to the left side, sweeping back to the right. Couple more of these. Feeling that whole range of motion in the hip joint, which is what we're doing here. And then return to tabletop. Move the hands about 1 handprint in front. Lift the hips up to the sky and we'll come into downward facing dog. On an inhale, the right leg lifts to the sky and bend the knee into scorpion tail. Knee is pointing to the sky, and imagine the foot is going to touch your left shoulder. Open in the hip here, and then release down. Second side, inhale, left leg lifts, bend the knee, left foot is touching the right shoulder in your imagination. Open in that hip out to the side, and then release down. Again, right leg, scorpion tail, and this time rock forward to plank and bring the right knee to the left elbow. Then back up to scorpion. So 5 of these. Right knee to left elbow and return back to that scorpion tail. Right knee, left elbow. scorpion tail, rocking through plank as we move through these. Trying to keep the shoulders parallel to the earth. Opening that hip and then release down. Inhale, left leg lifts, scorpion tail, and then left knee to right elbow through plank. 5 of these in time with your breath. Keeping the shoulders facing towards the earth, opening that hip up. Feeling that stretch, feels so good. This is such a good posture to do. Building strength in the core and the shoulders, and also opening the hip up. And when you've done 5, we will return back to downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg to the sky. Exhale, step up between the hands. Bring the back knee down for a low lunge. You may need your blocks here, so grab them and place them either side of the front foot. Release the back toes and allow the left shin to press into the mat. You'll find this really activates that left leg. Opening up the left hip flexor, back is long. We'll move into some hamstring slides. As you exhale, bring the seat back to the heels. Right leg is straight, bending over the front leg, and then inhale forward to low lunge. Again, back to half split, point and flex the foot. Low lunge. Seat comes back, flex the foot, point, flex, come forward. Seat comes back, flex, point, flex, forward. One more. Seat comes back, flex, point, flex, come forward. Bring the hands up to the knee, descend into the hips, tall spine. Front ribs are in. Inhale the arms up to the sky. And you may want to readjust the blocks, place them either side of the hips on the highest height, the tower height. And as you exhale, lean over to the right, stretching out the left side waist, feeling it in that left hip. Inhale back to center and exhale over to the left. Using that block if necessary, stretching out the right side body. Back up to the midline. We've got 4 of these either side, stretching over to the right, back to center, over to the left, back to center, moving with your breath. Grounding into the front foot, grounding into the back shin, keeping the body on the side plane. One more each side. Plant the hands, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee and step back downward facing dog. Side B, left leg to the sky, step up between the hands, bring the right knee down, release the right foot flat to the earth, grounding into that shin, placing the blocks where you need them, either side of the front foot. Spine is long. And then as you exhale, the seat will come back towards the heel for this hamstring slide. Inhale forward. Come back, this time flex, point and flex that left foot. Come back to low lunge. We'll repeat this a few more times, flexing, pointing and flexing. Low lunge, half split. Flex, point, flex, back, forward. Seat comes back, flex, point, flex, forward to low lunge. One more, seat comes back, flex, point, flex, back to low lunge. Coming up, bringing the arms up to the sky, front ribs are in, grounding down into that back shin, grounding down into that front foot. As you exhale, lean over to the left, stretching out the right waist. Come back up over to the right. Using the blocks, 4 more each side. Reach in and lean in, stretching out all of those muscles along the side body. Really feeling it in that right hip as you come over to the left side. Breathe in deep, keeping the core engaged. One more each side. Then return to the midline, plant the hands, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, step back, downward facing dog. Reconnect here for a moment, descending the heels, keeping the upper back wide. And then we begin again. On an inhale, right leg lifts to the sky. Exhale, right knee to right elbow. Down to the right wrist, up to the elbow, back up to the sky. 2 more like this. Right knee, right elbow, wrist, elbow, sky. Elbow, wrist, elbow, sky. And return down. Left leg lifts. Left knee, left elbow, wrist, elbow, sky. To the elbow, to the wrist, to the elbow, back up. 1 more. Left knee, left elbow, wrist, elbow. 3-legged dog, then downward facing dog. Right leg to the sky. Step up, pigeon pose. Bringing the right foot by the left wrist. Tucking the left toes, squaring the hips facing forward. We'll come into 5 pigeon lifts, so dipping forward over the front leg and back up. You can use blocks here as well to help. Coming forward, back up, forward, back up, keeping that left foot flexed. Hips facing forward, lengthening out of the spine, getting full range of motion here. Deep into that right hip, and swing the left leg forward, and we'll come into Janu Shirsasana. Right foot to the inside of the left thigh, and we'll do 5 lifts here, coming forward and lifting back up. Again, you can use the blocks to bring the floor closer to you. Folding from the hip crease, getting deep into that right hip as we come forward. Not worrying about how far you come forward. Come back up. Now we'll combine the 2 movements. Swing that left leg back. So you're in pigeon on the right side. 1 pigeon dip. Come back up. Swing the left leg forward. 1 Janu dip. Then back. Pigeon. Come back up. Swing forward. Janu Shirsasana dip. 3 more. This actually seemed more elegant when I was planning it than when I executed it, but it's a practice, so we're not all perfect. And then come back to downward facing dog. Pedal out the feet and we'll do side B. Left leg lifts, step up to pigeon pose. Walking those back toes back, sitting into that left hip. 5 of these pigeon dips. Coming forward, keeping the spine as long as possible. Remember, you can always place the hands on blocks if that feels better. Be mindful to keep the hips facing forward. And then when you've done 5, we swing this back leg forward, coming into Janu Shirsasana on this side. Sole of the feet to the inner thigh, folding from the hip crease and coming down. 5 of these. Get deep into that left hip. And then we'll combine the 2 movements, swinging that right leg back, coming into pigeon on the left side, 1 pigeon dip, and swing the leg through the range of motion in the hip, then Janu dip, coming back, pigeon dip, Janu Sirsasana. One more of these, swinging back, pigeon, and then Janu Sirsasana. Folding over the leg, coming back up, then releasing back, and we come into downward facing dog. Take a moment to reconnect, and we'll make our way onto the back. Get there any way you can. I jump through Malasana and release the seat down and come to lie down. So this next move is inspired by Pilates, and I recommend you watch the first round of this and then follow along from the second round. Whatever arm is nearest to the screen, raise that overhead and roll onto that side, so you'll be facing me. The top arm will come down as a kickstand. The top leg bends, internally rotates, externally rotates, kick long, back to the bend and long on the mat, roll over to the other side and repeat. Top arm is a kickstand, top leg, internal rotation, external, hamstring stretch, bend the knee again and keep it long. Rolling back, okay, top arm down, internal rotation of the hip, external, hamstring stretch, bend the knee, long, roll over. So as I progressed through this, I was finding I could use my core more and more to move me from side to side rather than using my arms. It became a more seamless movement than when I first did it. So keep moving, doing the same on each side, rolling through the midline, over to the other side. Knee bends, internal rotation, external, long in the leg, bend the knee, extend straight, roll back over, bend the knee, internal rotation, external, leg long, bend the knee, extend straight, over to the other side, knee in, internal, external, hamstring, bend the knee, stretch long, over again to this side, knee, internal, external, leg long, bend the knee, stretch long. I believe one more on the other side, knee bends, internal, external, leg long, bend the knee, stretch long, and back and stretch it out. Okay, that was a lot. Well done if you got through that. And we'll come onto the belly and do a similar thing. Bring the body all the way down to the earth. Arms are out to a T. I recommend rolling away from the screen so you can see me. Press into the hand nearest to the screen. Roll over onto that side and lift that knee up and touch the toes behind your extended leg. Roll back out to a T with the arms and roll onto this side. So this is a deep shoulder stretch as well, so be very mindful here. We'll rotate from side to side, open in the hip and open in the shoulder simultaneously. This feels really good to do, especially if you're a computer all day and you're always hunching forward. This is open in the body, open in the shoulder, open in the hip. Go in time with your breath. I do appear to be doing this a little bit fast, so do it in time with your breathing and your body. Being mindful of your spine, your shoulder, and the hip. I believe this is the last one. And then return to neutral and come into crocodile, stacking the palms, third eye comes to the palms. Allow the feet to turn outwards and just rest here for a moment, allowing the spine to recalibrate. And then when you're ready, push up and come back into downward facing dog. Taking a moment to reconnect. On an inhale, right leg lifts to the sky, and as you exhale, step it outside of the right hand into a wide lizard lunge. And then step back, downward dog. Inhale, left leg up, step forward, this wide lizard lunge, just for a few seconds. And then step back to downward facing dog. Jump forward and come into yogi squat malasana. Allow the knees to face the same direction as the toes. Spine is long, chest is lifted, and press the arms into the inner thighs and vice versa. We will come into a few malasana lifts, so working on the strength of the hips, standing up all the way and coming onto tiptoes, heels descend and back down. Inhale, lift up onto tiptoes. Exhale, heels come down, seat back to the earth. Keep repeating this, working the thighs and the hips and the glutes. This posture is like magic for the lower back and the hips. It can be quite tricky if you have tight hips, but just keep plugging away at it. I never used to be able to do it, and now I can. And then return to the earth and come and sit into a wide-legged straddle. From here, rotate the thighs in the hip joint, the femur bones. Then when you're ready, lengthen out of the waist, point and flex the feet a couple of times, and we'll lean forward into a forward fold between the thighs. Arms come up, folding from the hip crease and coming forward, keeping the spine straight. You may only come forward a couple of degrees, and that's okay. Keeping the feet flexed, grounding the backs of the thighs into the earth. And imagine that your pelvis is rotating around the femur bones. From here, we'll do a couple of lifts, reaching out of the waist, keeping the core engaged, and folding forward between the legs. Again, you may only come down a few inches or millimeters even. You can place the hands on the floor for this if you don't have the strength in the spine to do it. And then place the hands underneath the backs of the knees. Bring the legs in for butterfly. Keeping the spine straight, tipping forward from the hip crease, and only going as far forward as you can with the spine straight. So again, this may only be a few degrees. You can press the elbows into the inner legs to give yourself a little adjustment that can help. And then come back up and exhale forward, and this time round the spine over the legs. You should come a bit further forward. Activating the inner thighs here. This is a tough pose for me. And then inhale, come up, bring the knees together. And we will move into a deep stretch, which is a frog pose. This is a deep inner thigh stretch. The thighs are in horizontal abduction here. Keeping the knees at 90 degrees, the hips at 90, and the feet at 90. You can come down onto the elbows. You will soon see that this is very intense. The further back your hips go in this posture, the deeper the stretch. If you're finding it tough, just bring the hips forward for a bit of relief and then go back. Centering in on the breath, not worrying about how close your groin gets to the earth. This is a very deep stretch, and it's not a move that we really do naturally in our bodies. The standing version of this is goddess pose or horse stance. Keeping the shoulders relaxed, the jaw relaxed, the mind relaxed. Deep breaths. Breathing into the intensity, going to the edge of challenge, and then when you're ready, slowly shuffle the knees in, placing the weight on the elbows, and just sit for a moment in this thunderbolt pose with the Seat on the heels to reconnect. Stretching out the front of the thigh here and the hips. You can come back and lean back like I'm doing here. If it's within your body, maybe lift the hips up. This gives a deeper stretch to the hip flexor, a bit of release. And then bring the seat down. We will move into reclined hero. So this is an internal rotation of the thighs. Press the calves away. The knee remains closed and sit between the heels. If this is really tough, you can sit on a block. If it's within your body, you can release all the way back down for the reclined version. There should be no knee pain here. If you're finding it a strain on the knees, please remain seated and sitting on a block. Otherwise, surrender down here. This is actually my favorite yoga pose. I love it. It has a lot going on. It's stretching out the front of the ankles, the knees, the hip flexors. It is a back bend as well. And it apparently is the only yoga pose you can do on a full stomach. Deep breaths. Great stretch for the quads. If you're all the way back, slowly come up, bringing the weight onto the elbows. And we will move down onto the back, bringing the knees together into constructive rest, feet as wide as the mat, knees knocking, arms just released by the side. We'll take a moment here. This is a neutral position for the hip flexors. Just take a moment to notice how the body's feeling after all of that movement in the hips. It is said that we hold a lot of emotions there when we work through these postures and work on the mobility of the hips. We are releasing a lot of stuff, a lot of tension. Through consistent movement practices, we will open the body, gain a lot of mobility, which is perfect for longevity and help us live healthy, long lives. Thank you for practicing, and I hope to see you again soon.